Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. The reason why I'm filming this video is to say that I passed my driving test. Oh my god, it's such a relief to actually say that, and I'm here to kind of tell you my story, a bit of a story time to how my driving test went. So if you guys want to know what happened in my driving test, how it all went down and the lead up to the driving test, please continue watching this video and like the video and subscribe if you want. So yeah, let's just get into it. When it came to actually getting the test, a lot was going on. If you are kind of taking a driving test, you all know with the whole situation with the COVID backlog, it's just become so impossible to get your driving test. If you failed, you're not going to get a test until months later, unless you basically pay for a third party and they give you a test date, an early one. However, that does mean you're gonna have to pay an extortionate amount of money. And my test originally was for towards the end of the year. I can't exactly remember the month now. But I really wanted to get my test date way earlier because I just felt that it was just time for me just to do it. My instructor's friend, who's also an instructor, she was selling these test dates. I had 1.5 weeks to prepare for my test, which is absolutely crazy. So that meant I had to kind of do, 2 or 3 more hours on top, and just kind of squeeze that in. My test date finally came around. It was at 1:30, I think it was. I was a bit iffy on the time because I thought it's kind of lunchtime, so I'm not sure if it's going to be that quiet, but surprisingly the roads were okay. Obviously you do the 1 hour beforehand where you kind of go over a few things, do your general drive, practicing the show me tell me questions as you would, and then it came to the actual test. So sat in the waiting room and oh my god, when I tell you, I was literally so nervous, I was shaky, and like looking at everyone in the room was just the worst thing ever because people were smiling and felt so confident and ready, while I was there like, oh my god, I don't know if I'm ready for this, I'm just going. So yeah, the examiner comes out and thankfully I could just tell he was a friendly examiner. He kind of walked me outside the test centre and he was like, where's the car parked? And I was like, oh, just across the road. And then he kind of explains quickly about how the test will be, and then he literally's like, I'm gonna ask you tell me a question. I don't know what it was, my brain just froze, like it just froze for a minute. So he asked me the question about how do you know the brakes are working. So I was talking about the brake lights and then he looked at me like, okay, and he asked me again. I literally gave the same answer because I'm like, I don't understand why he asked me the same question. And then I was like, oh my god, no way, I've just told the wrong answer twice. And I was like, shit. And I think that was all due to nerves. I think because I just didn't have time to process everything. It's still kind of hitting me that, oh my god, this is the real deal. The one thing that I really do appreciate about the examiner is that he actually tried to make me feel comfortable, meaning he kind of asked me a few questions like, what do you do? How have you been? Or like, what have you been up to? And that kind of thing, which I felt was nice because it allowed me to kind of really slowly ease into the driving test, which was really good. But then it got to a point where I was like, I really appreciate this, but if it's okay if you could kind of please be quiet, because I just felt that the more he kept talking, the more it was I feel like I was just kind of getting a bit distracted. So as we're kind of doing this driving test, 10 minutes into it, he's like, yeah, now we're gonna do a maneuver. And I'm like, oh my god. He's like, yeah, I want you to go into that car parking space over there. I've never been into this car park space. I'm actually scared because again, different car parks have different bays, like some are quite small, some are quite big, so I was a bit like nervous as to how this would be. Going to the blooming car park, guess what, it was literally on like a gradient, so it's quite steep, and I'm like, this is not actually happening, is it? And what was so annoying was the fact that the bays were actually on like a steep gradient, so it wasn't like a flat ground, so it was kind of like that. Even though I was kind of doing my reference, I still got into the box quite wonky. Again, with the driving test, as you all know, you have 3 attempts to fix and change, and if obviously you don't correct it within those 3 attempts and you're still outside the box, then it will become a serious fault, hence you fail the driving test. So bearing in mind, I wasn't kind of in the box, I was kind of freaking out, and what made it worse was that my blooming left leg that was on the clutch, it was literally shaking so much. It was like doing this, like throughout the whole maneuver. And what made it worse was the fact that the car was also like doing that, like going up and down, like vibrating a bit, and I'm like, this is not actually happening, is it? And the worst thing is, because he's kind of like sitting back and quite laid back, so he can see that my leg is shaking and the car's also moving, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, like, and he's like, yeah, it's fine, which I appreciate. But it was just so scary, and I feel like I had to be so tedious with the way I was kind of maneuvering, because it again was on like some weird gradient, and I've never been in this car park before. Normally the instructor would tell you beforehand, oh yeah, they'd kind of take you on this car park and you kind of practice in those, but of course that wasn't the case. So yeah, it was my last attempt, and I was literally I was like, yeah, this is it, I'm done. I definitely failed this test. Oh, 100% I have. But because my car was at an angle, I feel like I could still potentially be in the box. But of course, I just didn't know. It was kind of 50-50 at that point. I tried to tell myself in my head, it's fine, don't dwell on it, don't think about it. Then we kind of went back on the route. And then in terms of roundabouts are like my biggest, weakest point. I just don't like them, I hate them, they freak me out. And just the judgment when it comes to entering a roundabout isn't my best. They went well, and the reason why they went well was because it literally wasn't busy, which meant that I wasn't having to like wait for people on the right. I could just like go in and do my thing, which was good. So roundabouts were fine. And then this other thing, right? So after exiting a roundabout, I had to stay in the right hand lane, because there were like, apparently they're called chevrons, but they were like on the left hand lane. So, but they only went up to a certain point, right? So I was in the right hand lane and kind of driving, and it was like a 40 miles per hour, so I was just doing my thing. And then like it came to a point where I was like, hold up, why am I in the right hand lane right now? I swear I should be moving to the left. Then I was like, shit, it clicked in my head, and I indicated and I moved. And then that's it. And then the whole drive just went really smoothly, which was good, and I'm so thankful and grateful that it did. Only those two things when it came to what I thought I perhaps failed on were the maneuver, and then the kind of maintaining your normal positioning driving magic. And that's kind of the two things that I thought this could be the failure point for me. So that's kind of like my little conclusion or judgment as I was driving back to the test center. Got into the test center, perfect, parked up, and then he was like, do you want your instructor to be here? And I'm like, I really don't want you to be here. But I was like, okay, just bring the instructor in. I really can't be asked at this point. And I was so scared and nervous. I can't fail. I really can't. It's gonna take 10 years to find a new test. And I don't want to go through the whole process of like doing more lessons. It's tiring and it's long. So she called the instructor was there, and then he was like, I'm pleased to tell you, you've passed your practical driving test. And you know what's so weird? I was so relieved. Like in terms of emotion, I felt more relieved than excitement, because I just knew how long and a process this was and how difficult it is to pass a driving test, because people are so strict, examiners are so strict, they've just made it so hard to pass nowadays. Like if you said this 10 years ago, it's a different story. And then he told me obviously the feedback, and exactly that. I knew he was going to mention the maneuver, and he did. He was like, yeah, you just about kind of got it in there. And thankfully, like I didn't fail on that, because I would have cried so much, because I'm sorry, but like imagine failing on the maneuver, like especially knowing that roundabouts are my most weakest point. I would rather have failed in a roundabout than the maneuver, because I've done the maneuver so many times. And he mentioned the normal position of driving. He literally said to me, very glad that you moved back into left lane. However, if he had continued on the right hand lane, he would have made it a serious. So it's absolutely crazy to me that those two faults were like nearing towards a serious, like very close. So I'm so happy my brain did its little thing, and I was like, oh my god, let's move to the right hand lane. And thankfully with the maneuver, I just about got it in. Then he basically gave the certificate to me, and I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. And he left, and then I had to get out of the driver's seat. And as soon as I got out, the instructor's there like, let's take a picture. And I'm like, I just had a test, like I need a full breather, because I was just so like anxious, and I felt like I just didn't breathe throughout the whole test. But yeah, and I'm just stood there like really awkward, but the picture was done and out of the way. And then yeah, and then obviously sat back in the passenger seat, and then my instructor drove me home. And yeah, that was my driving test story time, guys. What a crazy experience. Something that, you know, we all kind of long for, and just wait till that day where we can just say we passed. It's definitely a journey, and I'm so thankful I passed, alhamdulillah. I'm just so grateful right now, because you guys, it's just a process. Sorry, that's so cringe. I hope you enjoyed this story time. I will be doing a video on my first car, guys. I can't believe I got a car. And yeah, hopefully do a little come drive with me. And just my journey with how driving has been for me, because it's definitely very interesting, to say the least. Whoever's watching this video, who's got the practical coming up, or even the theory, whatever it is, I hope you pass and do well. I'm rooting for you because I know the pain, the struggle. You know, you've got this. Please just stay tuned for more videos and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.